Australians don't want to be divided by race. The message was loud and clear during the Voice referendum. But it's fallen on deaf ears in the most woke government in the country, in Victoria. And we might just be about to find out what the Allan government is prepared to freely give away and give up, all at the expense of taxpayers, as part of its ongoing desperate path to treaty. And brace yourselves. A report on the state's 4-year truth-telling inquiry has been tabled in Parliament and has delivered 100 recommendations for Indigenous Victorians. And gee, what hasn't the Uruk Justice Commission asked for in its report? Have a listen to some of the demands, and we can already see where this is headed. Among them, that Indigenous Victorians be treated as separate nations, offered tax relief and cash compensation, have land handed back to them to make up for what it says is the impact of colonialisation, financial benefits to make amends for colonial invasion, and for the Victorian government to acknowledge responsibility for the wrongs of its predecessors and offer a formal apology. Well, who would have thought that reconciliation would be so costly? And let's be honest, if this big push for funding goes ahead, who's going to pay for it? The Victorian taxpayer, of course, who have done nothing wrong but are being made out to be the enemy and as the people responsible for any injustice so that Jacinta Allan can feel good about herself. And have a listen to this. There were also recommendations for the education system that would exclude Indigenous children from attendance requirements, expulsions and suspensions. Now, learning outcomes are already poor for Indigenous Australians, so terrific. Tell them not to go to school because that's going to fix all the issues. It also recommended a treaty and that the First Peoples Assembly be made permanent, which it already has been. Now, this is a body set up by former Premier Daniel Andrews with 33 members who are paid almost $100,000 a year. It already receives regular funding and oversees a self-determination fund with, get this, a $65 million bankroll for treaty negotiations. And yet Jacinta Allan has left all of the recommendations of the inquiry on the table, not ruling anything in or out.
I'm not focused on people who want to divide, people who want to use reports like this as furthering a particular political narrative.
Really? I mean, what part of a separatist agenda is not divisive? What part of separating Indigenous Australians from Australians when we are all Australians is not divisive? And what is this disinformation she speaks about? Well, I'll tell you what is disinformation. The Premier has still been unable to say why she is forging ahead with treaty and what it means for the state. And as for division, as we've already heard this week, Jacinta Allan will create a Victorian version of the Voice to Parliament. More division that nobody asked for nor voted for. And this latest report by Uruk is the first glimpse into where that voice is headed. It's the typical tolerant left mentality, trying to guilt-trip the rest of us so that they can feel something. And what is clear is that left-leaning woke governments won't stray away from a separatist agenda despite the will of Australians. It's that type of division that 60% of us said no to and 54% of Victorians. We aren't some sort of apartheid country, but it seems as though Victoria is heading in a direction where it is. I mean, these recommendations are practically calling for a separate Indigenous state within the state. And they want their own access to resources, they want separate decision-making bodies, the right to govern their own affairs, and it's expensive. We don't know the final amount that could be handed out, but you can expect it to be in the billions if it goes ahead, and Victoria's already in record debt. And what's even more concerning is that the Commission was split over the findings. A majority of commissioners refused to put their names to all of the findings. In fact, 3 even considered writing a dissenting report. So, who is telling the truth and whose truth is true in the truth-telling inquiry? Because according to the truth-telling inquiry, any sort of truth-telling involves a lot of money and a lot of privileges. Now, if the state opposition wants any chance of winning the next election, they need to go big and bold and reject this nonsense. And I've got to say, it's a good start from opposition leader Brad Batten, who has already rejected a Voice to Parliament under his leadership. But gee, could the message at the Voice vote have been more clearer? Apparently not. The political elites have decided.